So welcome to this discovery call, basically on Intro to the Soul Connection System. And this is a system that I've been developing for a very long time. And I'll tell you a little bit about why it was born and why it's important. And so a lot of it will be based on my own experience and observations and based on my soul lineages. So what I noticed as soon as I got onto social media and the social media realms within what the spiritual teachings were, was I didn't find a lot of substance. I didn't find a lot of substance to what people were teaching. And something always felt a little strange to me. And because of that, I've done a lot of like inner inquiry and inner investigation, but because I've had this basically for my own shape and design, I'm more designed as an initiate and a spiritual initiate, and life has been initiating me all along. I've had a lot of initiations with spiritual beings without requesting them, meaning that I didn't force something. So I see a lot of people doing attunements and activations, and they're you know in some respect, we can see that as a level of force. It doesn't mean it's wrong or it's bad, and I'm not criticizing it. What I'm saying is that when you're on the initiatic path, the initiations will just naturally occur, and that you might be initiating yourself into things that aren't really in alignment for what you've come here to do or be. So if I were to decide to go a route of spiritual development where I was solely working with archangels, it would actually distort my own light at some point, and it would be veering me off of my path. So people don't understand that. We have this overarching kind of misconception that all things spiritual are good, meaning, and good for us. They're good for us in certain doses, and they're good for us if we are aligned with our soul. So here's where this comes in. You can study everything you want to in the realm of spirituality that you feel drawn to. Some things you may not feel drawn to. Like some people are not drawn to archangels, they're more drawn to ascended masters, or they're more drawn to elementals, which could be dragons. They're more drawn to star beings and more galactic consciousness. And again, there's nothing really wrong with any of that. But if you overly focus in one area and not bring it back to self, again, there's like this misalignment. So what I have figured out over the years is that we need to do energy management that is an alignment with our soul. Now, it doesn't mean that we all have something, it doesn't mean that we have to find a unique practice. There are actually well-developed practices that we can learn, because we all basically have the same system in many regards. We have a central pillar, we have chakras, we have meridians, we have a toroidal field, we have all these things within our energy bodies, and we have multiple layers of energy bodies, and all humans have them. And the way to integrate all these things in a way that's aligned with your soul is to develop and structure your energy so you can receive through your soul. So I'm not seeing that as a teaching by most spiritual teachers out there. And I started to understand that I had already come in with a well-developed structure, and that it was easier for me to receive things that were aligned for me. But that part of the reason I had that already well developed was because I'm here to help other people do that. So I wanted to share that because I think it's important to understand that there is some discipline to spirituality, but that leaves us room to explore. That leaves us this room to explore all different types of spiritual concepts, and then when we bring them home in what's alignment for us. So, and I'm seeing this is to me, and most of what I see and what people are offering, I see it's a very devoid of this. It's there's mostly it's let me tune you into this higher vibration thing, this higher vibration thing, this guide, this galactic guide, this angelic guide. Well, what about your soul? Because your soul is the translation device, an integration device for all those things, so that you are digesting from those spiritual concepts what nourishes you on your soul aligned journey through this life. And I want to talk a little bit about what I call, instead of spiritual initiates, I'm calling them spiritual inebriates. And if you have questions at this point or anything you want to share, you can share in the chat, and then we'll go into a little bit of Q&A exploration later on. But if you have questions as we go, please feel free to use the chat. But going back to spiritual inebriates. So, and why I say inebriates, because there's a drunkenness, right? There's a overconsumption of something, and it's not helping you, right? It's like eating too much sugar or drinking too much alcohol. Feels good. It feels good, right, in the moment, and then you pay for it later. So I don't see enough people talking about this, and so we can be we could say it this way: we can become inebriated on many different things within the realms of spirituality, right? And we're not just spiritual beings; we're spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical beings. We also have many varied energy bodies. We have a 4-body system, which is the most simplistic system we could tune into, which is physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. But if we wanted to stretch that out into different viewpoints, we could say physical, etheric, emotional, mental, causal, spiritual, divine. So we have those, that we have layers. We have a lot of layers in our consciousness, right? And how and those layers help us bring our consciousness into form. But all those layers need to be in alignment with our soul, and what I call, from my own soul, this term soul signature frequency. So what happens is, and this is how I see it in the beginning stages, we have inebriates of special. We have inebriates of specialness. And what does that mean? It means that what does it look like, and what does it mean? There are people who just don't feel enough. They don't feel they matter enough. They're not valuing themselves. And so they look for things that help them to feel special, which is, oh my goodness, an angel came to me, an ascended master came to me, my vibration's so high, I'm so special, I'm so much more special than you are because I do this. But there's where we get into the judgment that comes along with it. I can feel better about myself because I work with the archangels and you don't. That is an inebriate of special, right? That's kind of when people are first beginning this exploration into spirituality, and we see a lot of that. We see a lot of that going on. And if you truly want to feel special, you need to take my program about whatever it is about star beings, fill in the blank. And so that leaves you in the realm of consciousness. You're not in alignment. You're still operating from that place of not enoughness and needing to feel special. And so you just keep going along hungry, like you're an inebriate. You need to be fed again. So like it's like once the initial, it's like, in a way, it's an addiction. So you drink this one spiritual being's brew, and you feel special and you feel lighter and you feel better, but you really haven't done the work to look at yourself, right? And then you have so I'm talking about the inebriates of power because someone just joined, so of specialness, just so people understand where we are. So so we have this kind of like constant needing to be fed with validation of your specialness, of your high vibeness, of your relationship with spiritness, right? So that would be kind of like a person who's a beginner, and that's how there are spiritual beings who look for those type of people to feed off of, because they're pumping up their light. And if you ever saw or know anyone who is an addict, um, even a sugar addict, you know, they need that high again. They crash, right? So there's this level of crashing, and then uh, needing something to come bring yourself back up again. And there's also this interesting kind of competitiveness and comparison energy where um, there's what I see is that people don't realize they have a lot of people that might be kind of um, they feel like they're attacked or they're a victim all the time, or um, people can't handle my high vibeness. And that they do that because, right, because they there's this kind of whatever is feeding off of that person needs them to be in that state, needs them to be in that kind of fragile state. And what happens is a person doesn't even realize that the reason why they have someone outside of them that might be kind of pushing them a little bit or pushing their buttons is because they need to resolve certain things within their own system that they're not dealing with. And because they're not dealing with them, and they're spiritual bypassing them, they're kind of using spirit as an addictive substance, then they never get past this stage. They chase their tail on this stage, is the way I would see it. And then we have the other stage, and I'm just breaking this into two, which is the inebriate of power. So the inebriates of power. So instead of saying initiations, I'm saying they're inebriates. So what happens is maybe they've gotten to a certain point here where they've actually might have done some shadow work. They've started to look at themselves, but they're still in that place where they don't feel enough, and they need to have people under them, even more greater numbers of people under them to feel better. That's when you get into the inebriates of power. And what happens is there may be spiritual beings that say, oh, you see, you have this spiritual power. You see that? See what you have? And then they'll kind of show you, right? They show you how powerful you are. But then they will bring you on a path of needing more and more people to follow you, to be in your power and follow you without, it's like having like almost like a guru mentality, a guru out of balance, or uh, we could say that it's like people who don't feel like they are anything unless people are just following them blindly. So can you feel the difference, even when I'm talking about it, on the inebriates of special side and the inebriates of power side, the difference in the beings that almost feed off of those energies? You could be with someone, or you could be facing both of those things at once, but usually what happens is that doesn't happen until you get to a certain point of the inebriates of special path. And why am I calling them, I'm calling them inebriates because we're talking about, like I said, overconsumption. But if you have to understand, it's not a put down, and that what I'm really saying is, if you're an initiate, if you are really dealing with like being on an initiatic path with spirituality, and you're very interested in growth and development, not just of spiritual power or your spiritual gifts, but how you utilize them very consciously as a human in all areas of your life, and in a way that treats yourself and others with a lot of respect. That's an initiate. That's like the heart consciousness of initiation, the initiatic path. But along that path, you're going to run into these types of beings that are tempting you through specialness and tempting you through power. It just happens. It's part of being on that path. It's part of the development. So if we try to gird our loins too much from it, then we're missing out on what those um, opportunities offer us as far as growing. And growing as a whole unit. growing as a whole unit. So the other thing to look at on both sides is that there's an overinflation into spirit, and there's not enough of this investigation. And how do I um, be Pono, right? But Pono, if you know Ho'oponopono, that Pono means, they say it means right, but that means in alignment. How do I be in alignment and integrity with my heart, with my soul, with the truth, and honor all beings and beingness and free will, uh, and still be on this path of initiation? I mean, those are important questions to ask. And so that's why, again, this soul connection system is something that I felt very important. It's very important to offer, because I don't see it being offered, and I see a lot of people who truly believe that they are, doing good in the world. And I'm not saying that they're not doing good in the world. I'm saying that they're still not understanding, or understanding how to discern, that it's very possible that um, there's an influence that they're tuning into. It could be an internal influence as well. It might not be an outer influence, but there might be something inside of you that has to be rectified or harmonized or integrated. So meaning, it's a very interesting place to be, because we may hear internal voices that want us to, feed that specialness or feed that power as well. And it's a natural part of our system. It's a natural part of our growth and development. So, I could come here and say, don't follow those people. They're going to take you down a path that's going to be horrible. It's going to be really bad for you, and they're evil. Like I could say that, but I won't, because I know that every path you take, if you come into soul alignment, you can start to see those patterns in people and what they offer and how they speak about their offerings. And I'm guilty. Years ago, I thought this was the way to market. This is the only way to market. This is the only way. The truth, the frustration, my own personal frustration, is the only way to market to people is through spiritual overinflation, because they can't hear you otherwise. And it was true. I mean, it's actually true. It's very difficult to market as a spiritual teacher when others are offering spiritual overinflation in a very imbalanced way. So now I'm even looking at how I'm offering my services and my products, and changing all the wording on that, because this path of initiation is a path of being human. It's a path it's a heart and soul centered path. And I'm just tuning in to see if there's anything else to share before I take any questions. So this might be a lot to digest, and it might be, you might be, there are a lot of subtleties within this as well. So what I'm saying is, you could um, explore spirituality and a lot of spiritual concepts, and even work with teachers who are under the influence of the specialness or the power, and still be okay, because you're in alignment with your soul. So basically, you're integrating everything in a way that is in alignment with your soul. And that's my whole reason for offering this, so that we start here. We start building on this foundation of soul. And not just, I see a lot of people talking about soul, but I don't see them offering how to help you tune into your own soul. I don't see that at all. So, I mean, I don't want to say everyone, but a lot of people, right? So that's one of the reasons, like, I'm actually going to deliver something that helps you tune into your soul through your own energetic system, and your own energetic structures that we all come preloaded with. So I hope that has been helpful. And I will share a couple, just a couple of. I'm just tuning in. And okay, so there's this big kind of like, even if you have kind of participated in spirituality in this way, that it's okay just to forgive yourself and to just to move on from that, just to move on, because there's a, we are in a, it's true, we're in a spiritual awakening, we're in spiritual infancy, and some people don't know, they don't, it's, people don't know that that these things are possible. There's this belief that, that goes around from even very high level, or very, not high level, but very famous spiritual people, that nothing outside of you seeks to harm you. Well, I want to hold that as a truth, because we would love to live in that world, but right now we don't live in that. We don't have that truth fully kind of perpetuating our collective experience, let's just say. So I hold both truths as true, and but we can see that if nothing outside of us were, if things outside of us didn't seek to harm us, we'd be living in a very different world. So people who say that and don't explain this other piece may be being influenced because, because we still have to do things as humans to shape ourselves through our soul, through our truth, and through our sovereignty. It has to happen. We have to do those things. And I see a lot of teachings that say, oh, just tune into 5D, you'll be great. Well, here's what I would like to propose. Here's my little personal proposal. If 5D is here, then let's start building a 5D type governance system and society now. Let's all get together and do that now, because that's how we create form in the world, right? We have to participate with that structure and engage with it and live through it in our form. So that's the way to anchor that. So that would be I would say, what we need to start doing if we want that to be a truth, right? That we live through. So I just want to thank you all for being here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording for everybody's personal questions who've come here live. And if you see this recording and you have questions for me, you can absolutely ask those questions under this recording, okay? So lots of love and aloha. And I look forward to seeing these people who are hearing from people who are live and people who are watching the replay.